Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Hey there, Tag Me In Bro universe. I hope everyone out there had a wonderful 4th of July. I know that I did. And we had a great week of wrestling. Yeah, we've got Extreme Rules coming up upon us. Thank you guys. I know I'm sorry the shows are a little bit delayed, but we've got a lot to get into and we can't wait to share it with you. So if you don't want to miss out on 1 second of Tag Me In Bro content, go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro. We do so much fun engagement stuff. We've always got polls going. Next week, especially as we get ready for Extreme Rules, we're going to have our fan prediction series going on. You don't want to miss out on your opportunity to vote. So go on Twitter, follow us at Tag Me In Bro. We are almost at 7,000 Twitter followers, so thank you guys so much. Our goal is to hit 8K by SummerSlam. So help us out. Go on, follow us. And if you like wrestling, help make the community grow, because that's what we're about. Now, I hope you guys are excited for the show, because it is about to go down in a big way. Today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling. So first things first, we're going to cover our SmackDown speed through, where we'll give you guys our analysis of the most important parts of last night's show. After that, we've got our Head the People segment, where we want to talk to you guys to find out more on your views about NXT superstars as they have transitioned onto the SmackDown Live roster. But we'll talk more about that later. Then we're going to move on to our main event, where we'll be talking about the question on everyone's mind this week. And then we will close out the show with our stars of the night. This week, the question we're going to be talking about in our main event is, which belt is actually the most prestigious in the WWE right now? We will be doing our definitive rankings, not even for the whole of Tag Me In Bro, but for the SmackDown team. But we'll talk about that later. And now we're going to get to our SmackDown speed through. Woo! Here are the only 5 things you need to know about SmackDown Live this week. Number 5, Jeff Hardy defends the US title in an open challenge versus The Miz. Number 4, Becky Lynch beats Peyton Royce. Number 3, Sanity interrupts the New Day. Number 2, AJ Styles versus Aiden English. And number 1, Team Hell No keeps their momentum moving forward toward Extreme Rules. Okay, so number 5, Jeff Hardy and his old but made to feel new in the WWE Willow character have just declared their Independence Day US Open Challenge. I love the Open Challenge for the US title. I think it is such an excellent way to keep that belt defended, to keep feuds prolonged on the SmackDown Live brand with that kind of mid-card title. And I think it really gives some superstars excellent opportunities to shine. This week was no different. So the superstar who answered the call for Jeff Hardy this week was The Miz, which was amazing. Who thought we would get The Miz versus Jeff Hardy just on a Tuesday night? Anybody? The Miz had some great in-ring storytelling, and I think that his moveset was very reflective of his heel character this week. I think everyone's been talking about it, but that crazy, pretty dangerous looking big boot to Jeff Hardy's face that looked like you kicked Jeff Hardy pretty damn hard is a great reflection of this kind of, I don't give a fuck about you, I'm the best. I don't know, it's that kind of seeming carelessness, because we know that The Miz is a historically and notoriously safe worker, that I think adds so much to his dickish heel character. Thought it was great. Jeff Hardy won. It was a pretty good match, but the thing is it's a match we wouldn't have seen, and I wouldn't have wanted to see Shinsuke versus Jeff this early, so it was an excellent way to keep that momentum moving forward so that Jeff can still be feuding with Shinsuke, but it allows a superstar like The Miz, who is absolutely at the top of his game right now, to stay on television week to week. So loved it. Well done, guys. Moving forward to another superstar I'm so glad we got to see on television this week, Becky Lynch. So Becky Lynch had a match against Peyton Royce after the Iconics had a promo segment where they were like, they were basically like, we're not just gonna fight you, we're gonna hurt you emotionally because we're bullies. And Peyton Lynch, that's not her name. Peyton Royce was like, I'm gonna fight you and I'm gonna hurt you, like, emotionally, and that's gonna be the best part. And Becky won. Becky won pretty handily, pretty quickly. Becky Lynch has been looking strong. I am cautiously optimistic that maybe we'll continue to see Becky Lynch on television, especially, you know, they do have Naomi, who I always love to see Naomi get pushed. I'd always love to see her with an opportunity. But she's kind of having these weird dance-offs with Lana. Again, we didn't see this week, so, like, who knows? But Charlotte Flair is out currently on injury, so it would be nice to see Becky kind of move into that number one contender spot. It does look like, you know, it's going to be Asuka at Extreme Rules, but I think for SummerSlam, there's room to argue about which one of them would be the right choice to take the belt off of Carmella. And seeing Becky look strong is always fun. So, yay, Becky! Becky won, and on television. 2 ups. Moving forward to number 3, the New Day had a pancake eating contest. Byron Saxton, who looked like a fool, was the, like, host of this segment. And Sanity came out, interrupted the New Day, beat the crap out of the New Day, if we're being honest. And it was nice. It's nice to see Sanity versus the New Day, because if the New Day aren't going to be in the title picture, which it feels like they shouldn't, because, like, on some level, like, enough already, like, we get it. Like, they are the best. If they're not going to fight the Usos at this point, like, I don't want to see them fight for the belt, because we know that they're champions. We know that they are, like, the best tag team in the WWE's, like, modern era that we've seen. So seeing them with Sanity, both allows Sanity to, like, really, like, bust their chops and make their name on the main roster against an excellent tag team, but it also gives the New Day something kind of fresh to do. So I'm very into that feud. I'd love to see it continue. And if this is the feud moving forward, I would love to see them feud over the title at some point, because it does feel fresh. It feels new. It has that faction v faction sort of feel, which is all very exciting. Yeah. So we've been doing really well this far on SmackDown Live. Number 2, AJ Styles versus Aiden English. So Rusev is the number 1 contender to AJ Styles' WWE Heavyweight Championship. AJ had a fight with Aiden English. Rusev got involved. It was a little bit nefarious. It allowed Aiden English to, I don't know, get in some office, look a little more established as not just like an absolute vaudevillain jobber, RIP. And then AJ still picked up the win, which was really nice. And then after the match, they had Rusev come in and he, like, put AJ into the Accolade. He, like, beat up AJ Styles a little bit. All good storytelling, all really nice momentum building. It makes me excited. I'm really excited for AJ versus Rusev. We'll do predictions next week, but I don't feel like they're going to put the belt on Rusev. I feel like for as long as AJ has held the title, there should be more build for that quest for the number 1 contender and who's going to be there. But I'm so excited to see Rusev get this push. And I think as long as it's a good match, which AJ Styles is in it and Rusev is in it, it's going to be a great match. That it absolutely has the potential to be something more. And for Rusev to, like, finally get, like, a really big push, even if it's not the WWE Championship against AJ. I think it could lead there, and I think he could enter the US title picture. I'm excited about everything that it provides as options. So, yeah. And number 1, for us, the number 1 moment of SmackDown Live this week was Team Hell No. Honestly, came back last week and reunited with Daniel Bryan to reform their tag team, Team Hell No. And they were throughout SmackDown Live this week a light moment, an excellent moment. It was not just a lot of flashback and recap about moments in their past. It was about how are they going to work together now? How is their past going to relate to this? It was a lot of the old arguing. They had some really, really funny bits in there about, like, Kane being like, everybody likes to win. When Daniel Bryan was like, you tried to, like, kidnap my wife. When Kane was like, you're like my brother. And Daniel Bryan was like, yeah, you set your brother on fire. Obviously The Undertaker. So there were a lot of really funny moments throughout that culminated in the SmackDown main event, which was Team Hell No versus the Bludgeon Brothers, or versus the Usos, I apologize, versus the Usos, with the Bludgeon Brothers coming in after and it ending off with this, like, a complete stare down between Team Hell No and the Bludgeon Brothers. I appreciated the Usos bit. Like, that's one of the reasons that they're in the top, is not just because of how good Team Hell No was, but because the Usos play such an excellent, excellent foil to anyone in like the tag team division right now. I think partially because they're just incredible, but also because like the little bits that they called out when they were like, apparently all you have to do is like show up and hug to get a shot at the titles, like, fair, very fair. Like, where's the bar right now? We haven't had the opportunity to see them. Sanity is like in this feud with the New Day, but arguably like could have done the same thing and rocked up and been like, we're here and we want a shot at the titles. Like, the New Day basically has the liberty to ask for a title opportunity whenever they want because of their record. So it was kind of a nice thing to point out that like all that really happened was that Kane came back. So like, we haven't seen that much. We shouldn't be that excited. And then we got to see the Usos versus Team Hell No, two incredible tag teams and a great match. And it showed us that Team Hell No is back. Their chemistry is excellent. I will watch the Usos in any match for the rest of ever. And then the stare down at the end really made it exciting. I think we might even be looking at a triple threat at Extreme Rules, which would be great. Like, mostly because I hate the Bludgeon Brothers and I do not want them to hold the belts anymore. But like, that would be amazing. Like, there's so much momentum right now, and to see the tag titles at the center of that, when I think we've really seen them neglected on SmackDown Live before because it is a shorter show, but I think they really get pushed to the side. Like, to see them front and center with some really amazing superstars headlining that moment is incredible. So that has been our SmackDown speed through. I thought it was a really, really good episode of SmackDown Live. I didn't think it was incredible. I didn't think the wrestling was the best that we have seen. But I really did think it was good. I think the storytelling is great, and I think the momentum pushing forward is really good for the storylines, for the pay-per-view, for the characters. I am all about it. But let us know your thoughts on social media. Now, speaking of social media, it is time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on which NXT superstar is being buried the most by being on the SmackDown Live roster. I think the thing is we've had a lot of really incredible call-ups on SmackDown Live, and when you look at Raw, when you see how Ember Moon has been treated, how Drew McIntyre has been treated, they are front and center. They are getting airtime, matches, pay-per-view spots. And when you look at SmackDown Live, Sanity is kind of just showing up after being announced months ago. The Iconics like literally have not won a match yet. Asuka has had her streak broken. Andrade's just sitting somewhere. And then we've got old call-ups like Ty Dillinger, who's like, maybe, is he even sitting in the back anymore? Or have we let him go yet? So I think that's a big question for us, is which of these stars, all of whom were either incredible or incredibly promising on NXT, have been buried by their time on SmackDown Live. We'll be running a Twitter poll for the next 72 hours, and we'll discuss the results here on the show next week. So let us know exactly what you think. You can vote on Twitter by tweeting at us, comment using the hashtag #HotTag, share your opinion, and maybe have your thoughts read out on the show. Every week, we read out some of our favorite responses. So now we're going to talk about the results of last week's topic. So last week, we asked you guys where Dean Ambrose should return when he inevitably returns from injury. And overwhelmingly, 61% of you said Raw. 39%, obviously, because that equals 100, said SmackDown Live. And some of the comments were really, really interesting. Again, obviously, we have mentioned talks of The Shield, talks of his previous championship run on SmackDown. Riley W. at Riley_Wegner said, the entire Shield does not work on Raw. It's a mess. Spread them out. We don't need any more Shield reunions. So I can only imagine that he voted SmackDown Live. And Josh Yeti Richards at 406 Yeti said, time to rally the fold. Hashtag the Shield with hashtag the Usos. Again, a feud I would absolutely love to see. I would love to see that so much. But yeah, I think there is a big question of the Shield reunion was so obviously heavily planned out, and got so kind of, I don't know, I don't even want to say like caught in the mix. It was just, it ended up being a shit show for no reason of like the creative teams. It was just a lot of nonsense. But anyway, I think it would be interesting to see Ambrose return to either brand, honestly. I do think I fall a little bit on the Raw side of things, even though right now, you know, we've got Orton out So SmackDown really could use that kind of firepower. Not that Orton was in any giant feuds at that moment, but I don't know. I think it's just been safe to say we have been missing the Lunatic Fringe with a pay-per-view like Extreme Rules coming up. It is fair to say that we would love to see him come back. But you guys go on Twitter, vote in the polls. And we'll see what you have to say next week. Now we're going to get on to our main event. Today on our main event, we are going to be talking about our ranking of how prestigious each belt in the WWE, we're doing main roster belts only, actually is right now as seen on TV, or in some situations not seen on TV. So joining me is my co-host Tommy Rowe.
I've already laughed, and I am in fact here.
Wow. But the reason we kind of came to this is because I'm sure some of you have seen the rumors online that Brock Lesnar is potentially dropping out of his SummerSlam defense or choosing not to defend at SummerSlam. Either way, very, very confusing and very shocking considering SummerSlam is a big 4 pay-per-view and Brock Lesnar is the Universal title holder, which the WWE has been and does parade around as their top belt, which led us to say, is it their top belt? So we said we won't go over NXT belts, which, to be honest, are probably the most prestigious of any belts on any brand.
Yeah.
We're not going to go over the UK or the Cruiserweight titles, although honorable mention to the Cruiserweights who are doing some amazing things on 205 Live.
And Pete Dunne for holding that UK championship with an iron fist.
Absolutely, and turning out quality matches.
Absolutely, 400 plus days, killing it.
Amazing, but that's all they get. They don't get to end up in this ranking. So we have 8 belts in our system at the moment, and I guess we said we will go from bottom to top.
Yes.
So I will introduce number 8. So what we have is currently the least prestigious belt on the main roster is the Raw Tag Team Championships.
Yeah, could not even remember who held it for a moment there.
No, when we put this list together, we were like, who's still on Raw? What are they doing? It's not that I'm not excited that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt are title holders. I just think that, what are they doing with it?
Yeah, they're not really doing that much. I mean, this belt has really, it found the bottom of the barrel when it was held by Braun Strowman and a 10-year-old child. I really do think that the tag team division needs a hard reset on Raw. You have a lot of great teams on Raw that are just not getting that time to really show their stuff. These are teams that have just been thrown together. Their names are so positive and could be amazing. The fact that the Revival is jobbing to Bob and Romy is just crazy to me. It needs a hard reset, and I mean, they're holding the belts. I can't even say they're literally holding the belts.
Yeah, they're literally, that's exactly it. They're placeholders. They're bodies.
Yeah.
They're body mannequins at this point. So number 7 for us is the Universal Championship.
Yeah.
And I think this was hard when we went through it. We didn't want to automatically make it last because there are still moments in its history. I think it started with a lot of hope to see Seth Rollins and Finn Balor fight over that inaugural championship. Was really exciting to see it on Finn Balor's waist. I know, I was a Finn Balor fan from his time in NXT. That was a really big moment. That felt like Raw did have, I mean, when they drafted him, they said that they selected this superstar with one eye on the future, and he felt like the future. And seeing him fight Seth in a storyline that was all about coming up through NXT and being the first to do something.
Yeah.
I almost have chills talking about it right now because it felt meaningful and it felt powerful. But oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Absolutely. I mean, you have not seen the belt on television since before WrestleMania. I mean, I don't even think he was on any of the Raws between Mania and the Greatest Royal Rumble. Maybe he was, but the thing is, I don't remember. Sometimes you see photos of the Universal title belt and you're like, oh, it's red. I remember that. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, old friend. It's getting to the point now where we're at you meet the law of diminishing returns. The fact is you can't get heat on Brock Lesnar for not showing up. because you can't boo him if he doesn't show up to TV
Yep.
and he doesn't defend the title.
Absolutely.
It's just, but the fact is, it's not last on our list. And not that I want to speak for you, Taryn, but I think the reason that it's not last is that we're still talking about it. And Brock Lesnar is inherently a big money figure in sports entertainment because he can keep a belt that does not show up on TV even a little bit prestigious.
Absolutely. At this point, I think that Brock Lesnar is in like a Twitter feud with himself.
Yeah.
Like he is both the champion and somehow the heel contender, like
Yeah.
refusing to show up to defend it, but also still holding it. Like at this point, he might as well be the contender, and Roman, honestly, might as well be the champion because, and I hate to say
Absolutely.
this because it validates all his promo work, but like the man shows up every week.
Yeah.
Like he shows up every week and he's the only one talking about it. And it's like he's talking about it and the fans are talking about it and Brock's just refusing to even show up with it.
Yeah, I love the fact that Braun Strowman holds the Money in the Bank briefcase and they're like, you can cash it in whenever you want. And he said, really? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
No, you may not.
Right. So R7 is the Universal title. Number 6. And I will say in here it started to get a little mixed because obviously
Yeah.
we're talking about some similar belts on different brands. But I really do think this is where it comes down to the superstar and the quality of ring work and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
For our number 6, we chose the SmackDown Tag Team Championships.
The Bludgeon Brothers holding them right now. There's a very interesting feud that has just popped up on SmackDown in the last 2 weeks with Team Hell No getting back together. It feels there's something going on here, and I think the Bludgeons have not been great title holders because we've been kind of waiting for someone to demolish them. If that doesn't happen here, I don't really see where these belts are going. There's a lot of great teams on SmackDown post Superstar shakeup, and I think it would be really interesting to see some long-term programs with people like Sheamus and Cesaro, and hopefully, fingers crossed and toes too, Sanity getting their moment, and getting like the post NXT call-up push that they and a few other people have deserved over time.
Absolutely. I also think there's something to be said for like there's like a historic way of thinking about these belts in terms of prestige. And I think the reason, if I had to say for myself at least, why the SmackDown belts are rated so high above the Raw belts currently is not because obviously, you guys hear me say it every week, I can't stand the Bludgeon Brothers. I think they're a terrible tag team. I hate the whole gimmick. I'm not into it. I absolutely prefer the Deleters of Worlds. But when I think about the Raw Tag Team Championships, I don't think about anybody. And when I think about SmackDown, I do think about the Usos.
Yeah.
And I think that the Usos brought so much polish and prestige and power and heart to those titles that even though they're not necessarily directly in that feud or that picture right now, like I still think about that
Absolutely.
when they wear those belts. And I think that speaks so much to the caliber of champions that they were.
Absolutely. And they're still holding up the belt kind of months and months on.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
So moving forward, at our number 5 spot, we finally start to dip into the mid-card belts, and we have the U.S. Championship.
Yeah, right now, Jeff Hardy, title holder, painting his face now. Cool. Awesome. Love it. Still swanton bombing people. I think it suffered a little bit because he's not been able to have any long-term programs. We had that weird moment where Jinder Mahal was the U.S. champion crowned at WrestleMania, and that was really weird. And then Jeff got it the next night and then took it back to SmackDown. And he's not had the time to really become the U.S. champion. He's kind of just the guy who happens to have the belt at this moment. And the open challenges were something that John Cena did a while ago. And because he was doing it on a consistent basis, he could build up the fact that people want this title. But the fact is, the long-term booking isn't there to give it the kind of prestige it needs. That said, Jeff Hardy, man of my dreams. Ooh.
Jeff Hardy. I agree though. I think the U.S. title has really presented itself as where you go on your way down the ladder. At this point, I think there was a while where it could have built you up. When AJ Styles was the U.S. champion, there were moments when his match with Ty Dillinger in Las Vegas, an excellent establishing match, a match that made AJ obviously look wonderful as a fighting champion, and that made Ty look like a really, really promising challenger, like someone who was worthy and could have held the belt. But what it's really become is like once you're the number one contender for AJ Styles championship, you lose, you enter the US title picture, they put the belt on you for a week so you're not that sad about it, and then you're off television for weeks.
Absolutely. We'll see Rusev there in a couple weeks for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think at that point, you can't expect it to be that prestigious if you're not also using it to build people up so much as you're just using it to catch them as they fall.
Absolutely. It's not the top singles title on SmackDown. So it would be higher otherwise.
Absolutely. Number 4 on our list, we have gotten to the women's titles. Number 4 we put as the Women's SmackDown Championship. This was a big toss-up for us. We were really between, so I guess I'll spoil it right now and say number 3 is the Raw Women's Championship.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth a little bit about this, but we'll start by talking about SmackDown, whose current champion is Carmella.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we interestingly have on SmackDown is a Money in the Bank cash-in, someone who cashed in the contract and is now champion, and that's kind of what's happening on both brands. You have 2 champions who got there by cashing in the Money in the Bank. It just so happens right now, at least for me, that Carmella is eked out by Alexa Bliss, given the fact that the title picture is much more interesting and nuanced because we have Ronda Rousey getting kind of really showing her stuff, showing that she can really do well at the last pay-per-view, and then just coming up short, really losing her shit on Raw the next night, and then getting suspended. It's a very interesting story, whereas on SmackDown right now, we're back to James Ellsworth. And he just really devalues what's going on SmackDown. That doesn't make the title any less prestigious, though, because, gosh, SmackDown is stacked.
It is stacked. But I think that the difference in the women's championships, for me, very much so goes back to that quest for the number one contender. And I think that while we've talked about in certain belts, it being about the champion who holds the belt, bringing it up, I think in the women's case, it's about the people willing to fight for it. And I think that when we look at a brand like SmackDown, which I'll talk about first because they were number 4.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lump the women together and be it's only worth talking about them as one thing. But so when we look at SmackDown, what I'll say is do I think Carmella's a great champion? No. I think she's a great heel. I really do. I think she's an excellent heel.
I hate her.
I just fucking wish they'd let her do it alone.
Yeah.
If I could say one thing, it is that I think the cash-in went so well. And I think that they had put her in a position where she could just continue to be sneaky. I do not think she needs James Ellsworth. And the more that they do that, as much as it is a wily heel thing, just let her do it on her own. She is worth it. She has gotten that far. And I think we just want to see that of her. But also, so that's one frustration I have. But when you look at that belt, when Charlotte Flair held that belt, no one could take it away from her.
She's untouchable.
And the only person who could have come close did, and it was Asuka. And that was a beautiful match. I think it's some of the strongest moves we've ever seen from female competitors on a pay-per-view stage.
Absolutely.
And Asuka came up short. And in that moment, that was okay. There was maybe the hope of the Iconics, who they've absolutely buried.
Yeah.
But in that moment, who can take it from her? And yes, that's a testament to Charlotte Flair, but it does on some level weaken the belt just a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because it is absolutely reliant on Charlotte Flair as the champion. And what we already know is that Charlotte Flair is a great champion. But
Absolutely.
if you have no contender who is worthy of challenging them, then the belt doesn't matter as much. You might as well retire it.
I agree. I think on SmackDown, you had 2 white Southerners as your 2 top champs, and that was going to be 2 Japanese people trying to get the belts, and you had to do it with one of them and not the other, and they chose Shinsuke. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think Asuka turning heel would have reinvigorated that feud, but sometimes you pop a breast implant and you need to get off TV for a while. So I guess that's...
So congrats, Carmella.
Yeah, so congratulations, Carmella. You got John Cena for a week, and now you have the SmackDown tag team, not tag team, and she's not a tag team.
Women's championship. No, it's okay. It's all right. Which brings us to number 3, which is, hey, our top 3 belts in the company.
Absolutely.
Number 3, we have the Raw Women's Championship. And again, I do think the same argument applies, although we're speaking about obviously very different superstars and a different set of superstars. But to be on a brand that has 50% of the 4 horsewomen And to have neither Sasha Banks nor Bayley as your champion, I think is already a testament to the caliber of superstar that the Raw women's division currently holds. I think you're completely right. I think that when you just mentioned that like they're in a Money in the Bank position and Carmella did it as kind of a, I don't know, like a cheater heel, and Alexa did it as a strong heel, shows their ability to put the belt back on Alexa Bliss. Like, I really think she's an incredible champion. I think she does a lot for a belt. And I think you're right that, you know, they booked a couple things very, very well. Like, as much as there was a time where I was a little upset that Alexa had held the belt for so freaking long, there was a period of like November to January where she never defended. Like, that sucked. But I think they waited just long enough on Nia, to make her the champion. I think that Ronda Rousey was absolutely the right competitor for Nia and the right, like, number one contender. I think having Ronda fight for that belt at all adds that Brock effect, which is like, it makes it $1 million belt.
That match was amazing.
It was incredible.
Her singles match against Nia Jax.
It was so good. And
that
then
Money in the Bank.
For us to go through it and say, wow, we've talked about 3 superstars who could be title holders, one of whom is, obviously. Yeah. But, like, 2 who absolutely should be women's champion. 2 that are horsewomen additionally. And that's not even including, like, a rock star comeback like Mickie James.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you'll see something happen. We'll all see something happen over the next couple months where whoever exits the Bayley-Sasha feud probably go directly to the main event. I hope that feud lasts a long time and they draw it out, but whoever wins that should be women's champion, because you know that's sort of your mid-card, in air quotes, women's feud to push that person all the way to the top. Yeah. And I'm so excited for that, knowing full well that the winner's going to go for the Raw Women's Championship. So when there's that much more depth and everyone's got their eye on the prize, that belt is more prestigious.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's that moment of being like, I want them to win that belt.
Absolutely.
Not like, oh, maybe they'll trade them to SmackDown so at least they'll be a champion. Like we do sometimes with like Becky Lynch. You're like, I'll put her on SmackDown, just give her the win because she deserves a belt. Yes. No, this is like, I want you to have that belt.
Absolutely.
And so that is why the Raw Women's Championship has just narrowly edged out SmackDown for the 3rd place on our list. Number 2, we have, that was my terrible drum roll. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
We have the Intercontinental Championship.
Absolutely. The IC title is the top title on Raw. It's the only singles male title on Raw. Seth Rollins defended that title so incredibly well. Everyone was surprised when Dolph Ziggler just won it kind of randomly on a Monday. And people were just like, what? And I will tell you, for me, it was a little bittersweet, but I think it does create in our minds the idea that this is the title that people want to see. Dolph Ziggler so far has been, I love Dolph Ziggler. He will always have a soft place, little nestled nook of my heart because of that feud that he had with The Miz a couple years ago when he put his career on the line and won the IC title, which was one of my favorite feuds ever. But gosh, he got so reinvigorated when Drew McIntyre got the call up from NXT, and he took the belt off of Seth, and they're going to have a 30-minute Iron Man match at Extreme Rules that it's only going to be awesome. Like, there's no way it can't be awesome.
It's the 2 perfect competitors for an Iron Man match.
Absolutely.
And it's what I think is so cool about that IC championship flip that we did have, like, just out of nowhere. It showed that, like, the fans still love Dolph as a champion.
Yeah.
We're still like, yeah, throw the belt on Dolph. Like, no one saw that and was like, I can't believe they took the belt off of Seth Rollins. Like, everyone was like, no way. Like, we get to see this. That's going to be insane.
It was bittersweet. It was always bittersweet.
Absolutely. So good. And when I do think of the IC Championship, again, it has so many of those qualities you want in a prestigious belt, a prestigious history. You can't think about it and not think about The Miz. And before that, it was the British Bulldog.
And like Chris Jericho.
Absolutely. It has that lineage of stars who have brought it to the top. It's being fought over by absolutely smoking hot talent, not just because they're good looking. I know this plays to a very specific audience. But like the 2 other girls who listen to this podcast. But it does, like, they're both incredible athletes.
Yeah.
And to put a belt like that in an Iron Man match, how much more faith do you have to have in those guys?
Absolutely.
Than to say, like, who gives a shit? It's 30 minutes.
No
go
one-
for the pin. Like every single time, go for the pin. Because
Absolutely.
it doesn't have to be one moment. It can be a million moments. And that we're going to care about that. That like, for me, that could be the main event of Extreme Rules. And honestly, I'll
Absolutely.
be like kind of like, I know that it's going to be Rusev and AJ, and I love AJ Styles, but like,
Oh,
the
it's going
more
to be
exciting-
Roman and Bobby Lashley. You forget.
I hope that my uhs drown out you even talking about it. Oh my god.
I was very surprised when Roman and Jinder did not main event. I was very happy when they didn't. But when
Bobby
they did,
Lashley is a charisma vacuum.
muscle
but-
smiles.
So gross.
Miss
I know.
you, Apollo
Miss you,
Crews.
Apollo. Like gross. But anyway, so that is led. That's our number 2 belt is the Intercontinental Championship, and number 1, hey, yo,
Yeah,
it goes without saying, but is the WWE Heavyweight Championship.
absolutely. It is the longest title that's ever been in existence, other than the 10 pounds of gold over in NWA. I mean, it is the championship. The fact that it's still on SmackDown is only a testament to the fact that some designer is like, hey, let's make the Universal Championship red so we can't move it to the other brand. AJ Styles has been nothing short of his catchphrase for the entirety that he's held the belt after he took it off Jinder. Thank God he did that.
Mhm.
Even though I got spoiled for that title change. I was so annoyed by that.
I've been spoiled for every one of AJ
Yeah.
Styles title reigns.
God.
And there will be a day where I'm not, and I look forward to that day.
Yeah.
But I will say, it has never made it less exciting.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, like, the dream match was at WrestleMania, and it was not a good match. And that was really disappointing. But gosh, that heel turn from Nakamura was great. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens as we move to what I'll say is kind of the third phase of AJ's reign, which is you're going to have these single one-off type people. I mean, like, it would be cool to see Rusev hold the WWE Championship. It's just not going to happen. Don't get your hopes up. It's just not. It's not going to happen. It'll be interesting to see who moves into that spot. I don't even know who it's going to be, but as the cogs are turning in my mind, I'm just like, God, it could be anybody, and I'm super excited because AJ Styles is a truly amazing title holder who holds the belt as high as he holds himself in terms of in-ring performance and character. And anytime he's not holding the belt, you're like, damn, I want him to hold it because that is the most prestigious title in the company.
I think it shows such a mutual respect that he, like, when he lost his belt the first time, he, like, walked in and just, like, basically picked up the U.S. Championship off the ground and put it around his waist. And he was like, I'll defend it every week. Like,
Yeah.
he's never been portrayed as not a fighting champion, whether as a babyface or a heel.
Even when he was injured.
Absolutely. Nothing has ever slowed him down. Like, in the interviews he has done, even the ones you can tell are a little, like, especially, I guess, and the ones you can tell are a little not scripted, his biggest thing is, like, he gives his body to this, and he gives himself to this. And even in moments where you can be like, AJ, you're kind of fumbling over this promo, or in a match with, like, Nakamura, you can be like, I hoped it would be a little different, but I get you, like, can't walk on your foot, so maybe it's okay this time. Like, he is always giving 100% of himself to that belt and to that company. And I think that we can see that in the fact that his title reign has been, like, we're coming up on almost a year. I don't think we'll hit that year mark, but for someone who is in the WWE, quote unquote, fairly fresh talent, like, he's been with the company, we're edging on our third year?
Third anniversary coming up in January.
In January, yeah. So for under 3 years, 2 title reigns, one of which was almost a year. The first title change overseas, and basically a desperation title change.
Absolutely.
A moment where, on some level, you could argue, like, yes, it's exciting he was the first person to win the title in the UK.
Yeah.
But you could argue he got gypped. Like,
Big
to
time.
not have that big moment at a big pay-per-view with all the roses, with the 70,000 seats. He did that for the belt and for the company. And I think having a superstar like that carry that tradition in such a high esteem. Also, with someone like AJ who harkens back to an older age of wrestling.
Yeah.
But the purity of having a Southern accent. Like,
Oh, yeah.
he's got that Southern accent. He's got that, like, hey, brother, like,
Yeah.
charm about him. Like, he works as a face. He works as a heel. And it's genuine. Like, there's something about this that he loves his job. It is from his heart. And I don't think we can ask much more
Nope.
of a champion.
Or a belt.
Or a belt. No, that is or a belt. So that concludes our list. That has been our main event. I think it's been an incredible discussion. We threw this one we threw this one out there as an option for ourselves, and I think it was really exciting for us to get the chance to talk about it. But obviously, we want to hear your thoughts, so let us know them on social media. Now we're going to finish off the show the way that we do every week with our stars of the night.
You just made the list.
Our number 3 star of the night is The Miz. The Miz got tapped this week to take on Jeff Hardy in the 4th of July on the 3rd of July, Independence Day, whatever, open challenge for the U.S. Championship. I think this performance in the match really reminded us of the fact that Miz is a great heel on the mic, but also in the ring. Truly, truly great. And he is the guy you go to when you don't really know what you're doing with somebody. I mean, I remember the Bludgeons a few weeks ago. They don't really talk, and you need someone to pull some character out of them, so you put him on Miz TV. He really is so underrated in that sense of being able to carry someone kind of out of nowhere and for no reason, but he always makes it work, and he's our number 3 star of the night. Number 2, Asuka. Asuka won through a count out from James Ellsworth running away during their match this week. Set up for next week's intergender, I guess a Lumberjill match, if you want to call it that, on SmackDown Live next week. I'm really excited for that match. I love to watch the chinless one get his ass handed to him. We got a little taste of that this week, but so much looking forward to it next week. And I think I would love to see her injure him, kayfabe, in some way. I would never want to actually see someone get injured, because if he's still around and ready for action come Extreme Rules, I think Carmella will continue to hold the title. And while that's not inherently a bad thing, having a man define that for her is really just not what you need right now. So Asuka killing it, our number 2 star of the night. And number 1 is Team Hell No. After a really kind of out of nowhere reunion last week on SmackDown Live, Kane and Daniel Bryan are back together and just killing it. I think they really wrote this part of the show really well, having the Usos come out and kind of challenge them for this number 1 contendership, saying if we hug each other, do we get a title shot, was a really good way to do it, and it allows Team Hell No to kind of cement their comeback as not a gimmick, but truly as like, we are here and we are ready to take on the Bludgeons. Very excited to see it happen at Extreme Rules, and I really hope it does, because the Bludgeon Brothers on top of SmackDown Live's tag team division are not doing it for me, but you know who is? Team Hell No, and they are our star of the night. So Team Hell No, you deserve it. Well, that's going to do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Tag Me In Bro. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, or wherever else you get your podcasts served to you. As always, we're eager to hear your thoughts, comments, questions, answers, so please let us know what you liked, what you didn't, what you could give a shit about. For my co-host, Taryn O'Connor, I've been Tommy Rowe. Thanks for listening to Tag Me In Bro, and we will see you next week. Goodbye, universe.